Hey there, welcome to another episode of Dying to Listen podcast presented by the Disc Golf Dyers Guild. Today we have someone up north from Canada, we have Jeff from Discs Dyed by the Tinman. So don't forget your bag of discs because we're going to learn some stuff today. Jeff, thank you for my silly intro and taking time out of your evening to be on this podcast.
It's my pleasure, man. Good to be here.
Yes, I'm going to take this off because it's kind of hard with headphones and a hat. I'm just bald. So we'll get started. Do you play disc golf?
I do. Not
great.
Well, but I do play. It was, I guess I'm about 17 months playing.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
A buddy of mine, so at the start of COVID, I turned of a certain age and I decided to make some lifestyle changes and lost about 70 pounds.
Awesome.
And so I was playing pickleball like old people, yes, and other things. So we were looking for things to do that were not expensive. And a buddy of mine said, why don't we try disc golf? And I'm like, what the hell is that? And he says, well, like you throw a frisbee and kind of like golf. And I'm like, sounds good to me. And I think I've played 260 rounds since that time. I play through the winter, not currently because of my surgery on my knee, but I'm being diligent with the physio so I can get back at it as soon as I can.
That's awesome. It's awesome that you play in the winter too, because I feel like you have a pretty wicked winter up there.
Yeah, it can get a little cold.
Are there any good courses up in your neck of the woods?
Define good.
Well, I mean, enjoyable courses that you like to play.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the one we play in the winter the most, just because of the amount of snow, it actually has concrete tee pads, and it's a small little kind of par 3. 9 baskets with 2 separate tee pads. There's a couple, 300 to 325 foot holes, but the majority are between 180 to 240 feet, right? So it's with the traffic, the snow gets packed down, and it's easy to navigate, and it's easy to, you're in and out within an hour and a half kind of thing. Some of our other courses, with the wind and snow and the elements, when it gets deep, the snow gets very deep, and I'm not a tall guy. So, it just makes it tough trudging through the snow, and it's just not a lot of fun. So, but yeah, we've got our first A-tier course. We just are finished building, but we've got 1, 2, 3, I'd say 4 others that I enjoy playing. Yeah. For different reasons, whether they're open or wooded, where you need your channel shot and so on. So yeah, we've got a good variety.
So where exactly are you located in Canada?
The center.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Does it have a name?
Winnipeg.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 4 hours straight north of Fargo, North Dakota.
Oh geez,
yeah.
All right.
It's north.
Yeah.
Yeah, very and cold.
Yeah. Well, yeah, understandably. When you play in the snow, do you do anything to your discs to make sure you don't lose them in the snow?
Yes.
What do you do?
Tape ribbon to the bottom. Give you about 2.5 to 3 feet of ribbon, so it looks like a sperm as it's flying through the air. But for the 2 winners that I've played, I haven't lost the disc.
I do the same exact thing. People say that it affects the flight.
No.
I suck, so it doesn't matter anyways. If anything, it might help.
Yeah, well, and that's it. You're using ribbon that you would wrap a Christmas present in, right? And it's 3 feet, and so the amount of weight that you're adding isn't going to change the flight. and in the winter, who cares? At the end of the day, it's more about being out to play and whatever. I'm not trying to, well, actually, I got a personal best 2 days before the surgery on my knee. However, that's not the goal. I just want to get out and make good throws and good putts, actually. So having a ribbon on and not losing a disc is like priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. And for people that have never played in the snow and actually walking and trudging through it, it is a workout.
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely good cardio, but yeah. Anywho, what got you into disc dyeing?
I'm fortunate enough to have one of Canada's largest disc golf shops here in the city. I live about 20 minutes away. So when I got more into it, which can happen quickly, as we know, I got to know the owner and all the sales staff. I was there weekly because I was playing daily, right? I'm looking for different discs, different flights. What do these numbers mean? And I'm all in, which is, I know many of us have experienced that exactly. So in the shop, they had a section for dyes, and I just kind of like, man, I didn't think much of it. And the one day someone was talking about dyeing a disc, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, yeah, we can put art or colors on these discs and decorate them and do other stuff. And I'm like, what now? And the reason I found it so fascinating is, I don't know if I was a figure painter or I am a figure painter just on hiatus. So I quit drinking about just over 16 years ago, because if I didn't quit, I would be dead. So I wanted to find something to do, and I started painting figures because I liked doing it when I was a kid. So playing Dungeons and Dragons, the dragons, the orcs, the dwarves. If you've ever seen Lord of the Rings, there's figures for all of that stuff. And I hate to say, late 70s, I was playing first edition D&D, and I was painting figures kind of like late 70s, early 80s. And then when I became a teenager, I discovered girls, and the whole figure painting thing went to the side. But when I stopped drinking, it's like, well, I liked painting figures when I was a kid. I built tanks and models and stuff. So why don't I do that again? And I started, and I was pretty good at it. There's exhibitions and shows. So I actually was going to Chicago twice a year for shows, and where I would display my work, and I would get judged, and I would win if I was fortunate enough to win an award, whether it was a gold or silver or bronze or whatever. But it mostly was because of the community. And right at the start of COVID, I lost my mojo, and I don't know, it just happens, right? So I haven't touched a figure, but this whole disc dyeing thing, what do you mean put art on, add color? I'm now interested. And much like other things in my life, once I started, I got 100% immersed in this whole disc art thing. And I have been dyeing discs for 15 months. So I started a little bit after the whole playing thing. And I'm like, well, now I've got by Christmas, I got myself the stencil cutter, all the colors. Hadn't tried iodine poly yet. Was really hooked on ProChem. And now it's like, frick, you get me every color and I will try to do something with it.
That's amazing that you've only been doing this 15 months, and the stuff that you've been producing, I'm not trying to boost your ego or anything, but hot damn.
So with the whole figure thing, I've actually studied light and color. Because we're kind of isolated in Canada, what I actually started was bringing over from Europe master painters to talk about different techniques, different theories of color and light, how they behave and interact with each other. So I've spent in that time thousands of dollars on classes to try to understand how all that stuff works together. So I am by no means a master, but I've got a good foundation, good basic understanding. And the thing that I find so challenging and fascinating with this disc art is I'm trying to apply what I know to the disc, but disc dyeing is freaking way harder than using paint, because if there's a mistake, I can fix it. But with the plastic, once it's dyed. And I have a huge stack of mess ups that I'm not going to show you. Because, well, that's part of the journey, right? The more you screw up, the more you learn. And that would be one of the things that I would, don't be afraid. Well, it can be budget consuming because these discs aren't cheap. But yeah, you're gonna screw up a few discs before you can do the stuff that I've done. Like, as I said, it's trying to figure out the nuances of how the dyes behave. What's the actual color? Because when you start to mix this stuff, it doesn't look like the color that it's going to show up on the disc. Now, what if I need a separate color? Now I got to mix and match and make my own. So it's a lot of trial and error. Now I've kind of got an okay handle on it.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing handle.
Okay.
What translates from the figure painting to disc dyeing, and what doesn't translate?
Currently, and the reason why I say currently is because I haven't figured out the easiest way to accomplish what I want is its highlights, right? So when I'm looking at you on the screen, right? Your light is coming from a certain direction. I can see on your forehead, you've got some shadows in here and so on. You got some shadows under your neck. You can see the creases in your clothing. Well, in figure painting, because the subject is so small, right? The images that we're coloring or dyeing, I just call it glorified, like a coloring book, like I'm coloring this. The images are smaller, so what I'm trying to accomplish is an exaggeration between the highlight and the shadow. So I'm trying to create increased contrast to create something of interest, something that's interesting to look at. The hardest part is the highlight, because now I have to think backwards. So for me, when I paint, the highlight's the last thing I paint. Well, here, it's the thing I need to not cover at all. It's the last thing. So my methods, they adapt and change over time, but most of what I do is lotion painting, and I can get full concentration on a disc in about 4 minutes under heat. It's not sitting for hours or whatever. I'm trying to get this as quickly as possible. And I don't know if that's some ADHD or whatever. Because if I'm sitting around on a disc for hours and hours and hours, I'm going to be like, I'm done, right? So I'm trying to get this done as quickly as possible so I can move on to the next interesting thing. So highlights would be the toughest part for me, because now I have to think in reverse, right? So there's how I try to accomplish that: visualize a circle, and I'm breaking it into 3 different sections. So the middle section is your midtone, the bottom third is your shadow, and your top third is your highlight. So I now need to think about where the shadows and the highlights are going to be in relationship to a light source, right? And usually what we call it is zenithal lighting. So the light source is at the zenith, above. So it makes things simple, right? So if it's above, this is a highlight, here's a shadow, some highlights, shadow, and so on. So that's how I kind of approach an image is, okay, where are my highlights and shadows going to be? What's my mid-tone? And then I kind of build from there.
Yeah, I feel like your knowledge in this helps your disc dyeing tremendously with getting that depth.
Well, I think so. Again, now we throw in the plastic, right? Every plastic behaves differently, right? I will not dye, I apologize, cast a soft. It's just a waste of time, right? Because you're going to pay me a lot of money to dye a disc for you that's going to fade in about a minute. So there's certain plastics, and then each brand there's nuances with the plastic. How is it going to behave with the dye? Is it going to penetrate? Get the color that I'm looking for. So it's certainly, and by no means, like, I haven't got this figured out. Every disc I do is I'm trying to refine a process, speed up a process to still get what I'm looking for, but not lose the quality, right? Because I can't spend 10 hours on a disc. I have an hourly rate in mind. And if I'm spending 10 hours on a disc, well, it becomes unfeasible for the normal buyer or any buyer who's going to drop $200 on a dyed disc that isn't going to last forever. Well, you're going to store it in the fridge or the freezer just to keep the it's not a permanent item. So it has to make sense. So I'm trying to refine and go quicker, but also keep the quality. I don't know. Stupid disc dyeing.
What was the first disc that you've dyed?
Oh, shit. It was an Origin. It was shaving cream bed. I did it on a Wednesday night, and I know this because the Thursday morning I went and played, and I got my first ace with the dyed disc. Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
that's awesome.
So dyed disc vibe better, guaranteed. It's scientific.
This is fact.
Fact.
Yes.
100%. Yeah.
Do you still have that disc?
I do. Not here with me.
No.
I can run and go get it.
No, I don't need to see that. I think it's...
Oh, it's horrible. No, I was here. Let me go get it.
Okay.
Take 2 seconds.
1.
Oh, okay, more than 2 seconds.
Don't hurt your knee.
Oh, are you ready?
Yeah, I think in Canada your time is a lot slower because 2 seconds was pretty long.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Oh yeah. This is glorious? Yeah. First dyed disc by the Tinman with ribbon.
Do you still use it?
I haven't thrown this one in a while. I find I'm not sure if it's too flippy or whatever because I got so much power.
Yeah.
I've moved on to something different.
What colors did you use on that disc? Looks like all of them.
All of them.
So how did you do that?
Well, it started off with the shaving cream bed, but I didn't do the mound and the I just sort of sprinkled some stuff on, and then I actually I have honestly no idea if I took some, like, if it got concentrated, because you can see there are some of the, like, the burst texture, but then we got this heavy concentrated. I don't even know how the hell I got that green.
Yeah,
to be honest,
that's
I have no idea.
Very interesting.
Yeah. That was disc number 1. Disc number 2, I tried to do a flower, but my wife said it looked like vaginas. So now you can't unsee. There's 4 vaginas. Yeah. So this was disc number 2. So already an improvement.
Yes.
I know my anatomy. And this is on a river.
Was that shaving cream as well?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I kind of did the design, and then I guess it's sort of, well, you know, as it sinks,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of creates the different. Yeah, it's actually kind of neat. Looks more like a flower now, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. That's disc number 2. So there's been a little bit of, I guess, improvement since then.
Just a little bit in a very short amount of time. What other dye methods have you tried?
All of them.
Fantastic. What?
Cells was next, but I found it very frustrating. If I have nothing here, because it's too random. I like precision, things that I can control, and that cell business, that's bullshit. Yeah, that is not. There are dyers out there that make it's amazing to look at, right? But I just don't have the interest or the time to waste material to try to get this, because again, the colors, how much heat, how long it's holy shit. It's just too many factors that I can't control. And I know I don't know. It's so random.
Yeah.
So it's not for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what would you consider your signature style now, and how did you end up on that?
Well, I'm a stencil guy, right? And is that my signature style? Stencils, because it's unlimited, right? And it allows me to put anything on a disc, whether it's a picture of a cat or Miori mat. Like it's there is no limit to what I can put on a disc. And I think after a month and a half of starting, I really, well, thanks to Keith Lempa, the whole stencil thing, I was like blown away at what was possible. And that was, I guess, the beginning of my signature style. Is I want to wipe every stamp, and I want to put images on, and I want to make them look remarkable. So I'm partway there.
Partway there. Can you briefly describe your process of getting a stencil on a disc to it being completed?
So I guess the first part is to select an image, right? Because some of the stuff, like the more elaborate images I do or have done, is a painstaking process, because I've got about 4,000 pictures on my phone. And I kind of keep scrolling through, and what I thought was cool 2 months ago, I've kind of moved past. I'm always kind of looking. I spend part of my day looking on the internet, whether it's, well, I'm of a certain age, right? Cartoons I grew up with, the Flintstones. Yes. So yeah, I want to do a great kazoo, one that says, "Hello, dum dum." Yeah. So it's once I kind of, the image will resonate, I will then, scale it on my software to make sure I can fit it properly to scale. And if it doesn't fit, how much freehand am I going to have to do to fill in? Because like we can distort an image only to a point where we lose the integrity of the image. So I did that Rick disc a couple months ago. So the background was a glue bed. Believe it or not, I did a bed because I don't do glue beds really at all. So I wanted that swirly bit, and the way I had to fit the image on the disc, I had to do that by hand. I didn't use the actual original image, so I had to erase, redo, blank it out, and so on. So depending on the image itself, I will edit for it to fit on a disc, for it to work, and then I vector it, and then I cut it, and then I laser guide it on, and I don't do it upside down because that seems really weird to me. I know there's people that are out there that do it, but I just lay it on, I warm it up, use my trusty silicone squeegee, and I lay it flat, and away we go. Then the coloring begins. Usually, I'll do a hot dip for the black lines, and then it goes from there.
So some specific questions on that. What vinyl cutter do you use?
It is not a Cricut or Cricut or whatever the hell you call that. And it's not what's the other one?
Silhouette?
Yeah, no, it's not that either. It is, so a friend of mine is an actual graphics artist. He does all the, on vehicles, the vinyl wrap with all the design and all that stuff. So he's got one that can fit a 6-foot roll. And that giant version is called, I've never heard it actually said out loud, but I'm going to phonetically, Verver, Vevor, Verver. Well, I found a scaled down version that came with software that I can work with JPEGs. I don't need SVGs and blah, blah, this and all that stuff. You got a picture, I can take it, I can do it, throw it in there, and I'm good to go. So I was fortunate enough that it only cost me about $300 Canadian, which is about $5 US. No, I'm just kidding. Back, 15 months ago, now it's about $600 to get it because everything else is just more expensive these days. But yeah, it's called a Verver, and it's can do up to 14-inch sheets, and yeah, Sign Master, which came with the cutter. So I don't know. I can do arced lettering. It has every font available that would like a Word document would have. I think there's about like 400 different fonts. So I can erase, draw, do all that stuff with it, and yeah.
That's awesome. It's also cool that you don't use any of the other mainstream vinyl cutters, I guess. It is
not. Well, it's not mainstream in this circle of disc dyeing. But I use the vinyl I use is the Oracle 651. I have the Easy transfer tape, thanks to Keith Lempa, because that stuff is money. Because it's see-through, so when I do my lineup with the dot and everything, it all works really good. And it's one use, unfortunately. However, I bought, I think, 250-foot roll of it for like $65. And yeah. Thank you, Amazon.
Do you have a preference for your Oracle 651, like a color and or finish?
Matte white. Because I have bad eyesight. So if the shiny stuff, I can't, because of the light glare, I can't see the cuts. On the matte, no problem. Yeah. Matte white.
That's awesome.
Don't let anyone tell you black is better, because it ain't.
I like matte black, so you have
it's okay.
the black. You have a black vinyl on a white disc, so you can tell where you weeded more easily.
But the white, the color of the disc is not the same as the white on the vinyl, so you can see what you've weeded. I don't know.
It's white. How does that vinyl cutter handle like very small details? Does it work pretty well?
Yeah. Well, so okay, so I can adjust how small it will cut. So something that's it can handle. So if it was like a millimeter by millimeter dot, it can cut it, but that's just, how do I weed that? I can't even see it. So what I can do is say, okay, anything, and I don't know, there's a sizing scale. So from 0 or 1, which is that time, let's just say it's a millimeter by millimeter dot. I adjust it to cutting nothing smaller than a 5. Again, I don't know what that 5 means in scale or actual measurement. Anything under that, if there's detail that I need, I'll just hand paint it in. Like I'll just hand do it with a paintbrush and I'll do that fine detail work if I need it. But usually I can just say, well, anything under the 5, it's pointless, right? Because now it's just kind of mucking up. So the cutter itself is really, because I can adjust how deep it cuts and how fast it cuts and all that stuff as well. So as of right now, it does exactly what I need.
It kind of made me wish I got more of a professional vinyl cutter than a consumer one, because I have a Cricut and the only thing I can adjust is pressure. Like the Silhouette, you can even adjust the speed.
Yes.
But like the professional ones that you have, you can adjust basically almost anything, because it's that is its job, and to not cut specific sizes. That's awesome.
Well, that was just, I guess I lucked out because I didn't, well, the normal person would Google vinyl cutter, right? But I talked to my graphics buddy and I'm like, well, he goes, this is the brand that we use. It's really good. And I looked, I found a small size. He says, yeah, that's great. For that price, that's good. So I just did it. There are so many benefits out of this machine. I'm just lucky because if it's a Mandela, right? I don't know if I'm saying that properly. Like the highly detailed, like swirly, flowery. For those high detail images, I can slow my cutter right down, increase or decrease the pressure as needed, so it doesn't muck up the cuts. It actually goes nice and slow and just does exactly what I need. On something easy, I just speed the thing up, have it cut. It's done in 30 seconds and I'm good to go.
So when you first got it, was it intimidating to use, and was there a large learning curve?
Not really. So any software, you open it up, I'm not a computer guy really at all.
Facts,
yes. But it's almost impossible. So I guess with the software, it's pretty user-friendly, right? So it's kind of set up a little bit like Microsoft Word, where you've got your stuff across the top. And if you take a second and you hover your mouse over, it tells you what it is. And so I just sort of played with it. And I found something like an image. Oh, man, it was like a scary clown sort of thing. It was the first stencil I cut, and I just sort of brought it in, shrunk it down, and just let the thing go to see the results. And then it's kind of like, this kind of worked pretty good. So then I figured out how to increase, decrease, all that stuff. And it was just much like disc dyeing, trial by error, and read the instruction manual. Nah, just do it. And yeah, you screw up a few things here and there, but you learn as you go, right?
That, like I said, that's awesome. I'm really considering getting another vinyl cutter. I don't need it, but it'd be nice. For your hot dip mixture, what do you use for that?
Dye and water.
Okay, great. Anything more specific?
A cheap pan from the dollar store. So it's literally water with, I don't use Dark Dungeon or whatever that other crappy one is. But I just use iodine black, right? So I don't have it measured. It's a jar full. This is like my hot dip solution is that in the pan. And I would have probably a teaspoon of iodine black in that. That's it. Let it sit, warm it, until there's some steam coming off. And I can just turn it to low or turn it to off, and I just drop the disc in, let it sit for about 2 minutes. Then I pull it out to make sure all the little bubbles, because you're going to get lots of little bubbles. I give it a wash to get the little bubbles, and then I could lay it back in for probably another 10, 15 minutes, and it's good to go.
So you do the lotion painting, and you said you get it done really fast, in 4 minutes, I think you said. How do you do that?
Okay, so it's nothing magical. So I use heat, like the 250 watt heat bulb, and I'm about 4 inches, 3-4 inches. I have a ramen bowl, a large ramen bowl that I can lay the disc down. So the heat is coming from the under flight plate, and I'm about 4 inches away. And once that disc gets to 50 degrees, and I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, maybe 125, somewhere in there. Someone else, you guys will have to do the calculations. 50 degrees, I then pull the disc, wash it off to see the concentrate, how what's the word I'm looking for?
Saturated?
Thank you. How saturated the color is. So, but when I lotion paint, I don't scrimp on the powder. So I mix as I go. I don't pre-mix any color. I don't have bottles. I don't have bottles with little needles, and I don't do any of that. I use a shooter cup, and if that's 1 ounce, I'd say I've got about, I use about 1 ounce of lotion. I have this stuff. It's very, very thick. I got it in the people going through certain treatments at the hospital have very, very dry skin. This stuff is crazy, crazy thick. So I use about 4 pumps of that, 8 pumps of that, right? And this is both, I don't have that Queen Helen stuff up here. So I needed to find a cocoa butter. I didn't want anything greasy or oily based. So cocoa butter based. I use for every color, whether it's Pro-Chem or iDye, I use that color intensifier. I put about 4 drops in that, and I'm using, in 1 ounce, I'm using half a teaspoon of powder. I let it sit for about 5 minutes and make sure it's all dissolved, and away I go, and I'm ready to go. Yeah.
Interesting. How do you apply the lotion to the disc?
It's a wooden skewer for shish kebabs, skewering like for food, like barbecue stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what I like about it is my lotion is so thick. So when I stick this in, I've got a fair amount of lotion on the end of it, so I can apply it, and it's also very precise. So I can get in those little details. So I'm just like coloring, right? So I just dip back and forth and go, and yeah.
It's always interesting to hear how people do things. Yes. What I'm saying is you're very interesting.
Well, it's there's no right or wrong way to do this, right?
Absolutely.
You've had, I think I'm number 30 on the podcast. So there's 29 other people that have 29 other methods to apply whatever they're doing to the disc, right? I've tried doing like laser guiding upside down, putting a stencil on, and I'm like, I don't freaking get it. Because in my brain, I'm like, well, this is easier for me. Because I can lay a stencil on in less than 10 seconds, right? I've got to go, and then I'm weeding, right? Because everything's about how how quick I can is my process. And yeah, this may not be the quickest way, but I'm precise. And while people are still coloring in stuff, I've already got colors already embedded into that disc. 4 minutes, I pull it up, I wash it off. If I need to add or move on to another color, I'm already moving, right? So that Rick disc I did, you want to hazard a guess how many hours it took me to finish that?
5 or 6.
Yeah, 5 or 6 to do it. Yeah. I don't just with all the colors and all the shadows that I put in. I've started using spike it markers for doing some of that, just so you know. They're a little finicky to work with, but I've kind of figured out their nuances and I can use them quite easily now. It's all about that quick process, right? So if I can lay down my mid-tone or whatever color with lotion, well, how am I going to make that shadow quicker? Well, and I won't necessarily use black as a shadow. I may use other colors. And that's where that whole color theory with light, how it interacts. I'm just lucky I had a different hobby that I got kind of okay with to be able to apply some of that to this. So, yeah.
I feel like you like the thicker lotion because it's the same consistency as paint.
Yeah, my stuff is as thick as toothpaste. And part of the reason is under that amount of heat, it will thin out a little bit. And if it's too thin to start, it'll actually leak. Ask me how I know. It leaks everywhere, and red is terrible. Red tends to get very, very thin quickly. So if you're not careful, it's going to leak and bleed everywhere and make a mess. Yeah.
When you do your lotion painting, do you do one color at a time or do you apply multiple colors?
It depends. So yes, I've done the multiple colors. It really comes down to if there's similar saturation speeds. Some colors need a little more time. Others, like bright blue, holy shit, that goes in 3 to 4 minutes, right? It gets in so fast. So the red that I mostly use is cherry, a 50-50 cherry with eye-dye red. So it will take about 4.5 to 5 minutes to get fully saturated. Others will need a bit more time, a little bit more heat. So any color I know, and don't ask me for the full details, some of it's in my head. Sometimes I mess it up. And I should write some of this stuff down. So I'll have similar sit times for certain colors, depending on how saturated I want that color. So sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Do you put 2 different colors next to each other that would ever touch? And does that affect anything if you do?
It will, and I do put colors side by each, but because my lotion mix is so thick, I don't worry about them touching because it won't move. It will stay exactly where I need it to stay. Yeah.
I might have to, just like you, I like things to get done fast, and I might have to try that.
Well, I think, yes. When I first started this, and I only started dyeing, I started dyeing discs because it was something for me to do to keep out of trouble. Because if I don't have something to do, I tend to get into trouble. But then it evolved to the point where, people are kind of interested in this. I could sell a few of these to offset my costs, so I'm not out any money. And then it evolved into something entirely different. Like it's actually, so I don't mass produce discs. Like I don't do, some of the setups I've seen are crazy. They've got 8 lamps. They've got drying racks. They've got all this stuff, and they use it because they mass produce. Like they're dyeing 20 discs a day. That is so beyond my comprehension. I think the most I've done is maybe 4 in a day. Cause then I'm kind of done and I'm like, oh, I need a break. Something. Yeah. Well, yeah, don't dye. I try not to dye too much because of our legal, weed situation. Cause I tend to make spelling mistakes. I did one for a customer. I sent it down. It was pretty cool, but it had a big spelling mistake in it. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
What inspires you to create your dye creations?
I don't know. If I use the word resonate, some things resonate differently than others, whether if it's really elaborate. So, when I'm looking online, it's color combos. Like it really depends. It just really depends. Again, I do a fair amount of dyes weekly, and they're mostly simple, right? Or what I would consider simple, because some of the more elaborate stuff, again, you've created an opportunity to put those to market, right? With raffling them off, right? Because now I can actually get paid for what I know and what I can create. Because again, no one's going to drop 150. Not one single individual is going to drop $150 on any one of my discs. That's insane. That's crazy to me. However, I want to do those things. The more challenging, the more elaborate, the more the wow factor. I think it just comes down to, if I can get this on a disc, it's going to look freaking awesome. And it's not going to be easy to do, right? Whether it's how, with all the detail, the precision on some of this stuff that we do. I can't remember, it was Gingivitis recommended these tanning, like for leather work markers, and you could fill them with acetone and they work pretty good. But the tip of them isn't precise enough for what I want to do. So I still use a paintbrush on some of this hyper detail, very fine work. So, I'm kind of beating around. I know when I see it, and then it becomes the next level of challenge. If I can get in my mind what I see onto the disc. So I don't know how else to answer that.
So if it looks cool and it's a challenge for you to level up, you want to do it. And that's what inspires you.
Yeah, that sounded way better than what I said, to be honest.
Took a lot shorter to say too. So there's
I'll try to keep this under 2 hours and 20 minutes and 30 seconds and whatever, like Keith Lempa.
In your mind, what is the hardest part of disc dyeing and what is the easiest part?
There isn't an easy part to disc dyeing. Some of it becomes easier because of practice, right? And, just doing it more and more and more, right? You get a sense, like, as I said, I don't do glue beds, but, Daddy Mac Daddy Dyes, he does crazy cool glue beds. Holy frick. But he's got control and precision with the chaos and stuff like that. For me, it's kind of like, I respect that. I'm not going to do it. But I bet you he would say it's easy because he's put a ton of time into it. So, but disc dyeing isn't easy because there's no margin for error. And it's funny, every person who dyes a disc is super critical of their own work because they have a vision in their mind of what it should look like on the disc. And if it deviates a fraction from what they vision, it's a piece of shit. But everybody else looking at it going, well, that's freaking awesome. Oh, well, it's kind of easy. We need to be okay with they're not even mistakes, really. It's just something that's different than what you envisioned. And we have to let those happen, because disc dyeing isn't, part of my language, it isn't freaking easy. There's nothing easy about this because, well, have some red dye spill on your freaking disc and be happy about it, because it's going to take it like that. The hardest, well, is getting it to look like what I envision in my mind. So I've been lucky on 2 discs that they've turned out how I envisioned. I have my Scooby-Doo and that Rick disc. They actually turned out kind of how I envisioned, and I was pretty happy with how they turned out. And it's all luck. I don't know. This disc dyeing thing is just, it's the most frustrating and rewarding thing to do ever.
Yeah. That is his perspective that I've never thought about, is that it is really a difficult medium compared to other art forms, because like you said, when the dye takes, there's really no going back. That's it. And I do feel like artists in general are pretty hypercritical of their designs, because like you said, they have a vision in their head of what they want, and if it's not exactly right, or if there's little mistakes that only they would notice, yeah.
I learned that, I would post something. There was a Facebook, the disc dyeing Facebook group. I post something, it's kind of not, so it's not what I expected. And people are like, what are you talking about? This is amazing. So what I've actually learned to do is, when I do a dye or I'm getting close to being finished, or what I would consider, okay, I'm done. 95% finished. I put the disc aside and I don't look at it anymore, because when you look at it something for continuous hours, your subconscious is going to trick you into seeing something different. So a trick could be is you take a disc and you go look at it in the mirror, because that is actually a third perspective. It changes the perspective in a way to look at it and go, yeah, actually, that looks pretty good. So there's a tip for you today.
Yeah, I totally forgot about the mirror method, because I do graphic design, and that was one tip, is to look at it in the mirror.
Yeah, even a photograph will do it, but it doesn't seem to be photographs, especially with our cameras on the phone. They're not really cameras, and the colors won't be exact or whatever, but in the lighting, like it doesn't do it for me. But what I'll just go up to a mirror, I'll hold it up, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that looks actually decent. To get over that whole hypercritical, because we could be so hard on ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you would have to give any tips to either beginner disc dyers or veteran disc dyers, what would you give?
I don't know, honestly. It's a very broad question, right? And people will reach out to me and ask for, there's a few people that we chit chat about a process and so on. And I've done some discs for other dyers, and it's like, well, how did you do that? Right. And it's like, well, I'm not going to tell you all my secrets, but this is how I did it. So it really depends on the question or what the individual is looking to accomplish. And then I could provide some feedback. I still don't know how to answer that, to be honest. Can we come back to it? I don't
sure,
know.
If you want.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have an answer, that's fine. You can say
3 weeks, because so it's interesting, right? I don't know if I would call myself an artist, right? I can't draw. Well, I can draw, but I don't practice it, right? If you were to ask me to draw a cat, I would draw a stick figure cat. However, if I had a picture of a cat and enough time, I could recreate the image. But I'm not creating from my mind. So does that make me an artist or not? And that could be a discussion for a completely another day. I have a hard time calling myself an artist. I'm really good at coloring stuff. The colors get to go kind of how I want them, and I know how to do some shading, and I get some highlights in there, and it looks kind of cool. But am I an artist? I don't know. I feel artists have the ability to provide feedback or things like that, where I'm still struggling whether or not I'm an artist, right? Mm-hmm. So it's such a weird question, and I don't know how to answer that.
I mean, I would consider you a bum artist, low-level artist, glorified coloring book artist.
Yes, but I don't. It's so I can take an image and I can change it for what I need. So I'm kind of like 3M, right? I will make it better, or I'll make it usable. I'll make it better. I'll make it for what I need, right? So if I have to redraw something or retool it, I can do that. But I don't want to spend, there's a bazillion images online. I can take the base image and then change it for what I need, alter it. But I didn't draw it. It's more of, I'm heavily inspired. I don't know how to.
Well, I mean, that's still an artist in my mind. You're doing technically a derivative in a way of that work, modifying it to meet your needs. So you still have there is still some skill involved with doing what you're doing. And really, artist is a very broad term, but I would still consider you an artist. Good one? Well, but you're an artist.
Yeah. Fair income artist, that guy, Yeah.
So where do you want to take your disc dyeing career / journey? Like, what do you want to try and experiment with going forward?
I haven't fully, well, as I said, those 2 discs actually came out how I envisioned, but there's still more to do. I'm still figuring out the medium, right? I use a lot of acetone. I like how it bites into the plastic, but I use a lot of clear acetone to pull color off or out of the disc for my blending. I don't use, we don't have your what is it, that
denatured alcohol?
Yeah, denatured. We have methyl hydrate up here, they call it. It's I guess it's the same thing. I don't know. Mm-hmm. So I use some of that. So some of my dye mixtures is actually a 50-50 mix of denatured alcohol and acetone. So it's got a little bit of the bite versus some of the blendability and workability, because we know denatured alcohol takes a lot more time to get it actually to get into the disc, to get the color to penetrate. There's that funny word again. So, but I found as my skill has improved, I've used less denatured alcohol and I'm just using acetone, right? Because it gets in there as quick as I can, is it's going to get, because it's going to go quick. But I use a lot of Q-tips. I think I need to buy shares in Q-tip. Whoever makes that, Johnson & Johnson, because I go through a lot of those. But yeah, so I just want to continue creating pieces that when people look at them, they go, oh, wow. and I still have a ways to go to get where I want to, right? Yeah.
Well, I definitely look forward to what you create.
Thank you.
I think you're welcome. Man. All right. Where should we take this now? All right. We're going to do kind of a speed round of some other disc dyeing questions that I have that I typically ask, but we haven't really gotten to because I wanted to, stay on topic. But now we're going to go off topic. What disc plastic do you like to dye?
Opto Sparkle, Opto Gold. Yeah.
Fantastic. What is your favorite dye color/colors?
Fuck. I don't have one. Okay, so my favorite color is turquoise. My car is turquoise. I color matched my disc golf cart turquoise. It's actually Tiffany blue. But there isn't a good turquoise available yet. That's actually kind of the I dye turquoise is pretty good, but it's not quite where so I've been trying to recreate kind of my own color, and it hasn't quite worked out yet.
I thought ProChem has a turquoise.
It's crap.
Someone said that it takes like really fast and is really potent.
No, on the skin, yeah. Oh my god, it will dye your skin. Holy shit, crazy! It will not. I can't get it to dye plastic at all. I don't know if it's heat, acetone. It doesn't fucking. Oh, sorry, it doesn't.
You can swear. It's okay.
Okay, it doesn't fucking work. It is crap. So
interesting. What is your must-have dye accessory?
Oh fuck, Q-tips. Dye my cutter, because cutting stuff by hand is nope, absolutely not. Oh no way. I've tried cutting one by hand. I said, this is the dumbest. Oh, I'm sorry. The people that do it, I applaud you. But holy shit, nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
I don't think I've ever cut anything by hand either because I'm like, I got a vinyl cutter.
Yeah.
Do you have any fail stories?
Failed?
Yeah, like stuff that you fucked up or messed up on.
Yeah, I got a stack right here, but I'm not showing you. Okay.
Are there any memorable ones?
There's the closest stack right there. Oh, I do have one. So on Instagram, we have a local guy. He calls himself Frolf Jerry. All the memes he does are all based off of Jerry Seinfeld. If you don't, go find him. It is great and funny. He did a giveaway for when he got to 1,000 followers, and he commissioned me to dye a Frolf Jerry disc. I have 4 F-ups here. Oh yeah, and all out of my own pocket, right? To go pick up a disc, F it up, go get another disc, F that one up. Yeah, so 5th time's a charm. Finally got it good to the point where I could actually say you can do a giveaway with this disc. He was very happy, but yeah, I don't think he even knows that it took me like 5 times to get it. Yeah.
What did you keep messing up on?
The stencil, like, so he gave me a picture of the colors he wanted. So, and it could have been, I didn't have enough. The blue, I had to kind of create because it wasn't exactly bright blue. It wasn't flag blue. It was kind of this hybrid. And I don't think I put enough powder in my hot dip, and I let it sit, and all so I had the four main characters. I had George, Jerry, Kramer, and Elaine, all around the Frolf Jerry image, and the background is this blue. Well, it sat so long, all of the little details on the faces started to lift and curl. So I completely lost the definition of the faces of the characters, and it kept happening. I'm like, this is crazy. What's going on now? Well, I didn't have enough powder. The color didn't get into the disc quick enough. And yeah, if you let it sit too long, the fine detailed vinyl it started to lift and curl along the edges, and yeah.
Interesting. I don't think I've ever had that happen before.
I haven't had it happen since.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it was I said a few swear words on during that one. Yeah. And I don't know what to do with these discs. I need to recycle them somehow.
Give them to your friends. I don't know. Throw them in the garbage. Donate them.
I'll black them out, maybe. Just black. Don't people like black discs, don't they? Like just all blacked out? Yeah,
murder it out, man.
Yeah.
What has been the weirdest commission that you've done or notable commission?
No one's approached me to do anything weird, really. Like I haven't done any spinning penises or dick butts or anything like that. Which really wouldn't even be that weird, right? So I haven't done anything like that. Every commission is notable. Well, if someone is reaching out to me for something specific, it means something to them. And if they've come to me and entrust me for what my process and what I can do to a disc, then I guess I'm part of that uniqueness. So every commission I've done is kind of, it's notable, right? Because it means something to them.
That's awesome, because you can create something that is meaningful to them and brings them joy.
Yeah. I just did, someone reached out from Toronto, which is not the actual center of Canada. They came up with an idea for a baby that was going to be born soon, and already knew the name. So we did. Actually, this is what I've done a few cell dyes more recently, because you do one cell bed and you've got enough material for a whole bunch more cell beds. So I had a bunch of discs in my bag that it's like, what is it? The plumber has the leaky faucets. My discs all look like crap because I just I don't do anything with them. So I actually dyed, I think, about 6 discs. Say that really fast. 6 discs with some cells, because I had this material left over, but it was, coming soon with pink and blue cells throughout the whole disc. And it's, because when she received it and said how great it was and how happy she was with I've done my job, right? Somebody got what they envisioned. And that means all the commissions, when they get it in person, they say, holy cow, this is amazing. Better in person than in photos. That makes it notable, right?
Yeah. It's also a great feeling to give some validation in what you're actually doing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to be humble here.
I'm fucking awesome.
It's fucking awesome, dude.
So we got the dying out of the way. Let's get to know them, if you want to, on a personal level. So, first question series that I have is favorite fave. What is your favorite music and or song, or favorite band or song?
Well, it's more of a genre. Metallica is my favorite band. Not new It's like the 80s, early 80s, right? Ride the Lightning, etc. I had long feathered hair in the early 80s, full metal, and yeah, it's Iron Maiden. Yeah, even go further back, Deep Purple. Oh yeah, classic rock, like actual rock metal. Yeah.
All right. Well, I know you're old now because of that. Just waiting for you to
Yes.
pull out your skinny jeans and leather jacket.
Yes. Spandex, baby.
Yes. I'm never curious if that's going to come back or not. I hope not. What is your favorite food?
Oh, all of it. So I've been lucky enough to do some traveling throughout my life. And I've worked also in some very good restaurants. My godparents owned a couple of the fine dining restaurants that I worked in. So I always found what they could create, basic ingredients, and create something remarkable. And so I do all the cooking here. So I like, oh, I spent a year in Korea. Korean food is amazing. I like I like food. And I am willing to try anything once. Uh, yeah, anything once. So, but to simplify it, I think I like pizza. Pizza. Yeah.
A man of exquisite taste and palate likes pizza.
Yes. I like pizza. Yeah.
What is your favorite beverage?
Cherry Coke Zero. Coke Zero.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I think I mentioned earlier, alcohol isn't in the equation, right? So I don't drink a ton of soda. Like I'll have one or two, one a day kind of thing. Yeah, Coke Zero would be my favorite one that I would consume more regularly than anything else.
So, besides figure painting, disc dyeing, and playing disc golf, what other hobbies do you have?
At this, none. Those are it. So I was into cars at one point. So I wanted to build like a street legal sort of race car, sleeper car, but I burnt it down in my garage. That's another story for another. Oh yeah, that was scary actually. um, you know, I used to do competitive pistol shooting through obstacle course called IPSC. So it was obstacle course running, shooting targets and stuff, being timed and accuracy. I used to hobbies. Oh my god, I still play Dungeons and Dragons, 5th edition. Yep, every 2 weeks with my buddies. We've been playing for, oh my god, 40 years.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. We every 2 weeks. So the guy that I've known the longest, we've known each other for 48 years. And we've been playing together for 40 years. We've got the other guys in the group, we all met in university. So it's all 30 years for those guys. So we've had a group that we've try to get together at least once a month to play. But right now we've been lucky enough to play every couple of weeks. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes, I'm a nerd.
Nerd.
Yeah, nerd. Yes.
Yeah, I want to hear how that car burned down at a later date, but yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's
All
funny
right.
now, but at the time, it was the scariest thing I'd ever been through, right?
Yeah, I can only imagine that. Also very heartbreaking.
Yeah, I was so close to finishing the build. Like it wasn't days, it was like hours. I was just doing the final touch-ups on the engine. I had to fix the camshaft sensor. The wires were too short and part of it broke. So I was rewiring it and I fixed it. So I was testing it, and a fuel line was unsecure. So fuel dripped out and caught fire while it was in my garage. So I jumped into a burning car to push it out of the garage, so I didn't burn my house down. Yeah.
That's crazy. Glad you didn't burn your house down. Sad that the car did.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, I bought a car to finish the build, and now I need someone to drive it into a ditch. Because I'm so done, but I can't burn it down because it would look suspicious. Because I've already done that. Yeah.
All right. On that note, next section.
Yes.
If you had to pick 3 discs to play for the rest of your life on any course, what would those 3 be?
I had max weight champion T-Bird. That's I use that as I drive mostly backhand, but all my upshots are all forehand. And I need something that's very torque resistant for the forehand, and that disc just does it. Another disc, and I'm drawing a total blank. Okay, so driver would be an Essence. Okay, I would need, Essence, T-Bird, and then, damn it. Well, I use P2 putters, the Flex 1, the softer plastic. So there's the 3 discs. Zone as well. Man, I could go on. Frick.
Well, see, the thing is you need to pick 3, so...
Yeah.
The Zone would be 4.
Zone,
that doesn't count.
Zone, T-Bird, and an Essence. There you
Alrighty
go.
Then.
Yeah. Because I can
Neat.
my Zone.
Yeah, you can.
Yep.
Let's see. Lee, perfect hole. What has been your favorite course and or hole that you have played so far? I haven't unfortunately gone out of province. So a province in Canada is much like a state, but they're like 10 times bigger, right? So I haven't gone out of province to play elsewhere. I've only done local. One of the courses that I enjoy playing at is called the Kilkona Lakes, and hole number 6 from the long tees is you have to carry 280 over the water. It is freaking hard, and there's usually a freaking headwind. And I don't know, maybe it's because it's so challenging, but when I got it over for the first time, oh my God. And it's just one of those holes. It's picturesque because you've got the long cattails and it's a big, Kilkona Lakes, right? There's lots of holes with lake water on it, but that's kind of their premier hole, and it is a bastard of a hole for me anyway. Nice.
I'm old.
Yeah, many of my discs would be lost in there.
Oh, I got a bunch. Yep.
Do you have any courses on your bucket list that you would like to play?
Oh, there's one near Minneapolis. Blue. Shit. It's like a top 3 in the world. Blue. Damn it.
I should know this, but I don't.
You should, because it's not far from you.
Yeah, I know.
Relatively.
People listening, leave a comment of what it is.
I'd have to grab my phone. Blue.
We're just going to leave it as a mystery. The listeners are going to figure this out.
Yep.
And you look after we're done with the podcast because you'll be
Yes.
like, damn it, what was that?
Yeah.
All right. Next section. Dream date. If you had to pick one pro disc golfer to play around with and hang out with, who would it be and why?
Oh, man. Does it have to be a pro?
Not necessarily, no. Who did you have in mind?
Well, there's that comedian, that Bert guy.
Oh, okay.
Because he seems like he'd be fun to play because he drinks a few beers. And anyway. When I read the question, I follow disc dyers more than I follow the pros, the actual players. Anybody in the top 100 in the world would be remarkable to see in person to play because the level, I play C-tier tournaments, right? You get 2 rounds in 2 days. These guys are playing 4 to 5 rounds back after back after back, and they're playing at such a high level consistently. It's mind-blowing to me what they're capable of doing. So any one of them would be a dream. You hear the top players like Eagle, Simon, Cal, it's like any one of those guys would be, oh my God, I get to play it. Holy shit, that'd be remarkable. But it would be cool to play like with Keith or Kateri, because we connect in a different way. I chat with them online and we share ideas, and I haven't chatted with him a little bit, but I would enjoy playing rounds with them. I would love to come to Wisconsin and play some rounds with you guys, right? Because we have a connection in a different way, right? So I'm more into the disc dyeing, and I would like to play rounds with my fellow disc dyers than with an MPO pro. However, I wouldn't turn it down.
Yeah. That's a pretty awesome answer, actually. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope you got to know Jeff on a personal level. Maybe more information that you wanted, but he will be raffling off a disc. If you've been following the Dyers Guild, he has raffled some off in the past, and he currently holds the record for the highest. Second?
Yeah. Thanks, Justin Larson.
No, okay, second. I'm sorry, dethroned you. Anyways, he's up there. But anyways, you can win one of his dyed discs for $1 or more if you choose so. So 100% of the proceeds will go to him to help him and his dyeing venture, habits, addiction, whatever you want to call it. But to help support him, just donate $1 and you have a chance to win one of his amazing dyed discs. If you win, you could see it, dissect it, and wonder how the hell he did it. But the raffle will go live when this podcast is launched, and it will be live for 2 weeks. So head to dyersguild.co/raffle to get entered today. Jeff, thank you for being on. It's always a pleasure to listen to these dyers and the unique ways that they dye their discs and techniques. I learned something new today that I would like to try out. I like your impatientness and want to get stuff done fast because I am the same way. So, Jeff, it was a pleasure having you on, and thank you.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I thank you for your time. You have a good rest of your day.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you later. Bye.